Hello, little boys and girls. Welcome to NintendoLand. No, I'm just kidding. Today, my little brethrens in the Lord of our Savior, Krusty Christ, we will be making pizza. No, that's not what we will be doing. We will be talking first about Super Pets a little bit in a really simple way. Now, there's this thing called, I don't know what the hell, fucking DLSS, I believe. And, I think it's for NVIDIA, but there's an AMD version of it. Now, the problem I have with DLSS is that I only can assume it's based off of what I was kind of doing with Super Pets. Oh, I need to get that fat guy off the screen. Okay, and what it does is it tries to make you run the game at a lower definition while having the benefits of the higher definition. And how it achieves this, I assume, is the same thing as kind of the Super Pets concept, like everybody's retarded and hasn't heard of it. So they did it now, where instead of skyboxes and textures just having a render environment size that your CPU supports, and that's why everybody wanted better video games, because of the render environment size being better at a distance and filling it out completely. Instead of having a base processing level for an assumed world size, what Super Pets does is it says, well, those colors are all, and this is the part where all of these programs look like ass and that they're not anywhere close to it, is the colors are one base color at a distance. So all that's happening is it's just saying, all right, let's produce less pixels at each point on a grid, because everything's a grid work underneath everything. At whatever distance the lines are away from it, the pixels, each pixel line gets bigger. You know, the pixels, individual ones get bigger, making up each object. The wire mesh, basically, because there's nothing that needs to be done. And that means less definition, but it doesn't matter because it's a solid color, so nothing's going on, right? And there's smooth textures in Super Pets instead of a lot of complex geometry ever. They always stay, bigger squares unless it's closer up to the camera, like, for example, the dog's face, or anything around with, within whatever number of feet, 30 feet, I don't know. So the point here is that what they're trying to do is somehow put in complex geometry at a distance. And that's only going to work with games where, like I said, it's obeying the Super Pets principles of, flat, smoother textures with, maybe some complexity, but only in the closer environment. And the further environment not having texturing because it's perceivably far enough away to where you can't see it. And there's not an issue with pixel edges because it's such a simple, smooth, render in the first place that you won't see them at that distance if they were to exist.
Well, what they have to remember...
There's simple light shading on top of everything as well that makes it just soft and Play-Doh-y looking.
Yes, the light shading. I was talking about this while you were
cell shading.
Snoring about Hogwarts Legacy even. How they're trying to use the same engine. Like, I don't know if it's the full version of the game, and then if the other version of the game later that comes out, probably in the future, will have a different engine. But I noticed it was using the same engine as, seemed like, as Resident Evil 2 or whatever when you were playing it. 1, 2, and 3, the new makes. Yeah. And the thing about those engines is that there's a lot of reliance off of, like, electricity light turned into light data from the power supply.
Yeah.
So, like, everybody else, commonly their power supplies are one of three, the three precious metals and not platinum, whereas ours is platinum.
Yeah.
So our gaming experience was much better for those games.
Because of the lumens.
Yeah, because of the lumens capability. Everybody thought they looked realistically, real to life even, supposedly.
And you see how this lighting looks is nowhere near to real life in this Hogwarts Legacy game? That's because, like I repeat, its lumens aren't high enough so that way they can be evenly balanced and like, in a sense, cell shaded into the environment.
Well, what I'm so angry about is they always spend the extra time as if everybody's an NVIDIA fuckfag and you know, supposedly the game's going to come out, and it looks great, and it had, like, super pet beams of light coming through, more reliant, you know, off of your power supply, like I'm saying. And I said then power supply units should have more than one metal in them. They used to do this. Then games can, you know, use those different colors, or movies like Super Pets. Like, we just did Platinum for the first one. But definitely when they're in Gotham City, we should go for, like, more of like a copper and bronze mix feel.
Exactly.
For the rendering of the Super Pets Gotham. Because then it gives a completely different sensation to the architecture, being different somewhat.
Yeah.
And when you mix two metals instantly, you have so much more rendering capability. Everything is rendered so much easier. So that's just what I'm suggesting to everybody.
Yeah, so what we have here is DLSS, which I think it's more than just... Because there's different modes.
Yeah, they're pre-baking in lighting because everybody's computers are so weak, their power supplies and everything.
Yeah, instead of just having it be analog like a lot of AMD systems, even GPUs, CPUs, for certain games, it's like they can't afford to look at that amount of light. They're so weak, their brains will hemorrhage, they'll get headaches and shit, and they're just lying. They're always lying.
I mean, the whole point of a fresh bakery cafe is that it isn't pre-baked. Like, they're continuously baking it. People come in all day and get it fresh while it's cooling with fresh, you know, butter and stuff. That's living the dream, right? Well, that's kind of like how wizards live, you know? They're supposed to be, you know, getting real food because they had to burn so many calories doing their magic, you know?
Yeah, now, this is probably where these games came from, because I've been observing, and everybody's really fucking stupid. John Carmack poisoned himself with aluminum cans, the acid eating off the insides, and white flour pizza with no nutrition until his brains are gone, and he's just a fucking, like, fascist supporting getting as much as you can out of artists, even though some of those artists are the very people like him who used to be in the situation where they were modding engines and making really small games back in the day, except it's now, and he's just saying shit on those people, man, off with their heads, you know what I mean? Like, he's being a real fuck maggot. So if he doesn't, you know, shape up, then fuck him and cut him loose from the system, you know what I mean? He's a bitch right now. Unless he comes back through suddenly reformed, you know, from all the body slams he deserves to be getting in jiu-jitsu all day.
Well, yeah,
My point is this. Right now in the current situation, look at the side of that building. You think they aren't trying to make it all Super Pet style, like these simple textures, and then, you know, afterward applying whatever that's called, texture pressing, like trying to make the simple textures, because I've seen a bunch of games, and I'll repeat this now because this is what I was talking about. If you were going to make a more complex game, which is why they are arguably not actually better, they're just different, and you wanted Super Pet's advantages to the render size and scope of the game, then you would make everything smooth like Super Pets, then like I'm saying, then you can render everything at a distance reliably. Then you basically need a separate core, or the graphics card, or what have you, multiple cores, rendering everything over that while it has a reference underneath it that's, you know, basically like clay animation like always.
Yes.
Then you can have at a distance better looking DLSS and all of that shit without as many errors and problems. Because, but then, because everything's so smooth, then you have to rely on that tessellation to make, like, the stones he's running under right here and the walls and stuff look like they have depth because they're just smooth pictures.
Well, no, because you can simply have it switch when it gets close enough to the player to be regular, you know, bitmap texture or whatever they call it. Then a little distance out, it starts instantly doing the Super Pets thing.
Good point. You're just moving a small geometric environment like Super Pets with more complexity near them, while at a distance.
Like, for example,
it's kind of the reverse of a pop-in. It's close to you that things are in focus.
Like, for example, between these two fucking buildings here, at a slight distance as he's running towards it, there's the light shaft coming through. As he gets closer to it, there would need to be, like, as he's farther away, more of an obvious light shaft coming through at the angle of the sun to hit the wall over there and the people. Then as he gets closer, it would fade, as it interacts more like a regular video game, as like it just becomes regular light on textured stone, instead of the super pets, all reliant on light from the power supply, which is anyone can get for super cheap, up to 800 or 1500 watts, and that can be actually used with new gaming styles of making the software that we're talking about. Everybody's kind of been embracing that more and more, just raw energy.
Yeah, and so, I mean, ATI's been doing it forever with different gemstones and methods. My point is this,
but where we live, everything is always turned into a faggy pro NVIDIA, pro like any other company than ATI type feeling. No games hardly, other than some back in like 2008 to 13 came out in that period for 5 years. Those had physics that were raw with fun electricity and stuff in them.
Yeah, and that's my big gripe with this whole situation is I played the first Tomb Raider game, which, arguably was a little bit rough on women, or the woman in the game, which I don't like to see Tomb Raider beaten up quite that much. I like to see her win a little more and flip around and be sexy.
Yeah, it was bullshit.
Yeah, I don't really wouldn't want to see anybody beaten on that hard in a video game. It's kind of ridiculous. You kind of want this power fantasy, not to watch your character model that you have to control and move around, constantly be beaten to death by wolves and trees and badgers and angry beavers gnawing on her beaver.
Damn, that sounds kinky.
Yeah, my point is this, though, that this methodology, the reason why I don't really like it, and I'm saying that they really just need to get better power supplies, overclock, and just get better in general, get healthier, get better NVIDIA PISX technology as well with cleaner urine, is because when this is happening, like you're saying, when it fades at close distance and stuff, you have this effect where everything's kind of like ethereal looking, and if you do it wrong because you're a moron, then it'll happen at the wrong times and be really jarring.
Well, yeah,
there's no way around that. That's just a smart implementation.
Well, yeah, it has to do it steadily.
Yeah.
As you approach until the last of the light shafts are all smoothly reduced down to, just a general glowy feel and then nothing.
But you see, in AMD, because it's analog, all it's doing is like a perspective trick, because it's just geometry, that it's rendering analog. The lines just get more complex as, you get closer to something with more squares and textures, because it's analog, and so it's not even rendering the algorithm, it's just one algorithm that's, as you press forward, is saying things are more complex and making the lines further apart on geometrics or closer together.
Doesn't that make sense to a programmer that things rendered with less importance in the distance could be the stored battery energy that like transfers into closer, like refined processing requirements to like actually show stuff off more? Like in the distance, like there's the light shafts, and then that is like like we were saying, the sun moves across the sky, and why wouldn't that be the point of reference for all the energy from the power supply, whatever angle it is?
Well, yeah, that's why I was saying that even NVIDIA can do direct analog flow through the stuff that I came up with so that I can play games, even if it's on them, with the current hardware I have. I can't believe people are trying to sell AMD/ATI graphics cards as if they need it implemented in some sort of base, like chip way on a board, which doesn't need to happen. It's analog.
Well, here's an interesting little story. Of course, Witcher 3, it's just a rip-off game that's come out way early when the real one's yet to come out. And so it's got the same stupid engine as a bunch of other old games. And it had all of its active like torches, like lighting textures from flames turned off completely in their shitty version of the game, even though that's not necessary, because stupid piss fags always come in and say, I can't render all those flames live randomly, but AMD can. So people were coming in and custom baking in the torchlight, even for NVIDIA fags, so they feel special when they're on board, you know? Always onboarding the piss fags nonstop. And it's annoying. It's frustrating.
Yeah, and I don't really approve of all this piss behavior. Piss is a toxic, resource when it comes to people that, consume garbage, and I don't think they really deserve to really be doing anything, but that's just my opinion.
Well, it's all finally irrelevant as everybody lets everybody do everything like as though it's a society the whole time, as everybody gets so weak of everybody doing whatever they want. But then here, somehow we're always getting the bad results of it, impossibly.
Yeah, instead of everybody dying everywhere else for their graphics cards that should irradiate themselves to death within years, giving them sulfur tumors all over their bodies.
Yeah.
Because I know it's piss. It's piss colors. I've seen, the separation of piss colors. It's like, you rainbow orange acid. Well, rainbow, piss. And it's what these colors are.
Yeah, so, if you're in the castle going around far from any sunlight or anything, then we're just going to have to work out, lanterns and stuff, casting energy properly. Here's the problem with existence, I guess, in general. Our valley itself, when we look out at night, depending upon what year it is or whatever, there'll be, some years now, mostly these years lately, none of the lights fucking cast pools of energy around them. It's all starring. And you want to make a fucking bet that the priority of everybody making video games is somehow the light priority in our solar system shifted because of expansionism. So then light itself is reaching farther with less density to the particles of planets and everything.
Yeah, geometric starring.
Geometric starring. So then everybody's brains do the same thing, and they just automatically shift their math, everything over, and then everything's starring and reaching desperately to shoot in lines of data all over into the landscape and video games as well.
That's why when I brought this up, you have to remember we talked about everything before. I brought up that you draw that starring from the middle of each pixel so that it has, shaded lighting. With a simple transfer program into from 1.44 for the pixels into 3.14, so that way it's the falsehood rounded with math because you have to realize to generate the energy for these environments, they have to run math on their cards. So this is the most efficient conversion table for our gray to gray dots that we came up with to place all over the environment.
Let's face it, we're just talking about
because you're shaving off the edges of each pixel for gray to gray dots, but usually they're bigger because they don't need to be that pixel specific. They can be major pixel zones of entire spaces of the environment.
Everybody just squared pixels. Everybody fucking squared circled squares and squared circles, and what that means is all of the attempts for chemicals to make nobody unspin and have wrong-shaped Tetris blocks in their bodies, and say it very simply. So it's all holes everywhere that are cancerous and nothing can grow back into a good shape. Well, whatever my point was, I don't know.
That's bad and that's ruining everything?
Oh, yeah.
When you play Tetris with your cells and leave black holes sucking at you?
I was going to talk about it in reference to video games. I don't remember how, so whatever.
Okay, well, I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
Yeah, whatever.
I was just trying to finish what I was saying.
Yeah. So, yeah, pools from the lanterns. Nobody seems to fucking understand lights, how they don't understand water, it can be thicker or thinner. And video games are supposed to be a reality, a medium of expression where it's joyful usually, and say it's about entertainment, right? And getting feelings expressed out of people so they feel more alive and want to do shit in their own lives. So using the real facts of the universe and how physics work, eventually maybe a video game will be achieved where we go from thin water to fucking fat water, chubby rain, that whole thing. It's a little joke about the reality of the physics of everything that nobody gets. So, pools of lantern light, you have to use those as resources of light that then scatter out from there.
Yeah.
So, like, there's an intense comparison, like, it's so golden glowy, around the light sources, and then that's casting out from that direct pool farther in certain ray amounts.
Yeah, with a standardized principle. The same way, I keep repeating this. This is why this is so dumb. For example, my Zacti camera that I have, it already is doing this, which is kind of where I got half of the idea from. It's built because tiny pinholes don't really deal with any starring of light, especially off of the polished glass elements. That it sort of stars it already a little bit, down to such a small point at least. Well, it has down where the lenses meet the element that actually goes to the tiny sensor. It's got a punched starred hole on a little wheel that spins past, like a traditional film wheel. And every time it's exposed, so it doesn't get exposed too much because it's such a small sensor, the brightness would be too much. It's a little X. You can see that in some of my videos on different channels, even this one currently. When I have the sun starring out, it's seen in Road to the Grave. They're X. It's like X-framed light.
Well, yeah, that's why the name of the camera is X Action Zacti.
Yeah. So, under that principle, with its supporting, magnetism and everything, it does a really good job in high light radiation and other even, like we live in an irradiated place. We live in the desert west above Nevada where all those test sites were. The radiation's still ambiently bleeding out of the sand at whatever, maybe survivable levels to a hyper athlete. Well, the reason why we needed such good cameras, and we finally achieved it with the DJI, is because it has to constantly mediate that starring of broken light in those different frequencies. It's pretty much the most advanced camera other than this newest one, which I'm finally proud to have gotten, this DSLR from 2011, like way back, that has sound waves implemented into the 3D geometrics, which could be taken account for in video games in different methodologies. But my point is that...
And the sound waves are actually picking up light rays coming in that are too starring.
Yeah.
And when they're treated with sound networking radar, it's amazing how much it softens that.
And so what we're talking about here applies, because why I was going to bring this up is because, they're dealing with a starring issue because it's not truly analog. And so that's why I was saying we shave the corners of the starring using a conversion table that makes the game environment render anyways, because they're just running random math for no purpose. You have to realize, NVIDIA, it's terrible. So it's a simple conversion table that changes the entire way the graphics card software can operate. Any of them, even theirs.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that making constantly everything round and spinning out light that's a different colored, energy, because the different energy frequencies of it starring out with it controlled magnetically like that. It's like how everybody, has to terribly, if they want to survive into the future, eventually do terrible dance moves that are just... what they call it, break dancing, where you just spin around, supposedly, and then your limbs break, and then you spin some more. You think those people know what the fuck their bodies are doing? No. They've just been gotten a hold of by the reality that they used endless chemicals, and their DNA's all spun up, and that affects how they grow, and uneven patches. So then when their nerves down to the atomics finally fire and realize how crooked they are, then their bodies... if they're athletic enough, can go nuts and unspin in crazy ways like that, as though it's dancing. So that's kind of the concept of light in general in this fucking universe at this point, and how they need to think about it when it comes to making video games.
Yeah, and so my methodology is correct. NVIDIA has to run programs to even make things happen, to even bring energy, because it doesn't have any analog method of doing so with logical circuits from the power supply. It has to run a high-end algorithm doing some sort of number something. So I'm just advising that it do with this comparison so that it's rounding light anyways and doing a correct conversion of something.
Yeah, exactly. If you can magnetize the light, because guess what? You know how power supplies, they'll say originally they were 40, 50 plus certified, then the government kept having these higher standards. And what does this mean? Up to 80, 90, 100 plus certified? That's like an actual percentage of efficiency of programs running. I'm not kidding. You know, Energy Star efficiency? Guess what? The government was aware of expansionism of the fucking solar system and the universe, and they factored for it. So everything is being built to standards, Energy Star, to continue to function with either lower amounts of energy or larger amounts of energy transferred to be compatible still.
Yeah, to prevent starring. Energy Star.
And here's the hilarious part. My power supply might be 90 plus certified. When I got it in 2014 or 15, it was hard to get anything above that. There was like 95 plus, but it was hyper expensive, and you didn't get as much electrical throughput. So I got the best possible one available. And the point of all of this is, when the program's running, it's actually like an centrifugal force, infinite, self-perpetuating engine of light energy, and it's like generating its own energy. When you get to 100%, 100 plus certified, you're actually generating energy with your computer instead of losing any. Like you're
basically turning into a small hard-on collider.
And if you knew anything about the power grid and the frequency of the electricity and how the entire system of entire continents are set up with interconnected grids by the government so that energy pulses at such frequencies that no one's aware of over the entire mass of the grid. And they aren't even aware, until recently, of how computers like ours are pumping energy back up into the grid infrastructure and evening out electricity all across the world, and how hackers are doing the opposite, and they're hacking the electricity to bits and making it jagged and making it blow out everyone's cell phones when they're charging them with their home electricity. Everything explodes everywhere because of bullshit, bad programs from that sort of stuff.
And that's why cheaters are such a problem, because they're trying to ruin servers of companies. They're trying to ruin everything because they're trying to make bits be dropped, misinterpreted, so that they can not, exist their character model while being, shot at in Fortnite or something. And it ruins everything. It's packet loss is not good. Energy loss and misplaced energy so that the computer can't register it is bad.
So the ultimate goal, how everybody was Bitcoin mining? That's where they're doing some weird fucking thing where their government's rewarding them. I'm not fucking kidding, whatever, but somehow. And they, are killing themselves, and they, aren't supposed to do that at all. And there's all these, everybody knows better. You can watch the documentaries. They're infinitely sweating. They drink infinite water like they're gaming, but they're not doing anything. And it's just generating electricity, and their computers going back into the electrical grid, smoothing everything out. So they get addicted to that process and getting rewarded with bitcoins that can be turned into certain, purchases and stuff. And in the future, it'll be more widely available, as a reward. So, for example, our computer, just because so many fucking people are spying on it, that's going through the air? I'm just talking, theoretically here. All the cell phone towers, they put in massive new ones with, solar panel-shaped arrays that are shooting energy that's, more efficiently studied out to be how the sun is efficient. It's putting out massive energy without much effort, in other words.
Yeah, so 5 gigahertz.
Yeah, so it's going...
same as the CPU frequency of this game right now.
Yeah, so they put that out into everybody's cell phones at 5 gigahertz. And so people's cell phones are supposed to be running 5 gigahertz cores. Our computer here only peaks at 5 gigahertz, at the most extreme, supposedly. The CPU. The GPU, of course, is way above that. Way above that, because it's monk fruit. So the point here is everybody's spying. our computer is efficient almost completely 100% because it's platinum. Then there's all these factors to do with that. We're smoothing the fucking air particles infinitely, like we're gods putting out soothing, hypnotic entertainment through our channel infinitely. While what are the results back at us? Just like with our strawberry farm, how everybody shows up. You could claim it's all, imaginary, but, the weeds get worse. They take our product. They give us no money. Well, it's the same. They take our YouTube videos. All of our dance videos look like total fucking shit on YouTube for no reason. Worse and worse. As COVID-19 keeps claiming souls. As there's just this piggy demand that everybody else somehow with their starring, fading vision have every YouTube video that's primo be torn loose energy that somehow streams into their eyes, their ripped cortexes, and like punches and kicks their brains into seeing it, sort of.
Yeah.
And that's not how any real person's fucking vision works who's planning on living any length of time.
That's exactly what I was trying to say, is the breakdown of their irises happens so much quicker when they have artifice of colors in their brain and all that. It's just shortening the lifespan of everything that should be long-lasting as long as you're alive, or longer, basically.
So what were people doing? It's a giant wizard battle? Then they're shooting jagged electricity, cheating at video games. Their cell phones, as people support them cheating in video games, try to make the air full of jagged electricity in pockets in cities as a big cult. Then their cell phones explode. The batteries that all turned into like lithium and other stuff all explode from that behavior.
Blowing off their hands.
Their hands are blown off. Masses of people are missing hands. And, some of them die just from the shock pain of it. But, it's pretty cauterized, Think of the terrible agony consequences of being a, electrical terrorist is what they are.
Yeah. We got to protect our grid. We got to protect the sanctity of the electricity and keep it clean and green.
Yeah. I mean, the electricity was so fucking jagged in 2016 that no matter what, I could not use, an electrical-based space heater that blows, has an electrical coil of metal that heats maybe some sort of other surface like ceramic. They have those. But the point is, a fan then blows that into the air, but the ionic particles coming off out of the electrical grid was so toxic here in Idaho and elsewhere, as everything was super freezing that year and super hot, that I couldn't even sit near fucking electrical outlets. Like, you could feel the electricity because it's so jagged. Think about thunderstorms. They kind of regulate out that jagged electricity that everybody's producing and smooth it out again with flashes of electricity and accompanying blasts of sound that force the air particles to kind of strain the electricity freshly with all that gas, ozone.
Yeah, and hence every city
But there's been no fucking thunderstorms. Worldwide, I've watched as the thunderstorms get less. As a result, weather control alert. I mean, these are just fucking scientific facts. If you fucking control the weather with any sort of chemicals or whatnot processes, I don't care what they are, they've done all different ones, oscillating the air with certain jagged electrical frequencies in and of themselves were preventing storms along with chemicals some years. So the problem with that is, then the storms build up over the oceans and get more and more fucking massive, and this has been happening since the 90s, worse and worse. Then they slam into the coasts, and everybody lives on the coasts as they're eventually sucked to their jagged electricity as it finally reverse ionizes, and their wizard powers that reject the storms coming into land with their shitty radio waves finally suck them in as the balance gets too great, and the actual fucking poles of the fucking planet they live on start oscillating around and shooting out bolts through the ground in all different angles across the globe to even out the ionosphere that they're yanking different directions to control the storms. And then the fucking storms come rushing in with extreme fucking disastrous results. Yeah. All of fucking Japan, the lower part of it, got smashed by the fucking waves and sunk. It's not there anymore. 2017, it sunk from the Category 7 hurricane that hit it.
Don't you mean like 6 of them that kept parking all along the length of it?
It's gone. There's nothing there. It's all underwater.
My point is this. When you do these type of things, you push the magnetosphere, when they always tout it too, especially AM frequencies. Some billion, quadrillion watts of power that are going up into the sky instead of anything reasonable. Just fucking cuz.
And imagine the guys talking on those frequencies. They got jagged personalities. They're always trying to make people snarl at each other and bring up stupid subjects that they disagree on that don't matter.
And because everybody's personalities have gotten even more abrasive like that, then all over the internet you have conflict on any forum, anything, anywhere. You try to go on a bodybuilding website and there's just some person just saying, I take steroids even if it's not true. What are you going to do about it? Oh, you not steroid takers, how do you feel about that? I mean, anything, anywhere. Facebook to YouTube to any website you care to go on, even Instagram. It's all the same type of behavior. No matter how much you block it, there's always a new account from probably one of the same people at this point. But, or at least somebody with the same exact behavior. And they're all being abrasive together. So abrasive that they're going to get destroyed by the snapback of magnetism from all their hacking and cheating and shitty fucking AC units because they're intentionally manufacturing these things poorly. It's not a mistake. And that's why I say that AMD PISX cards, unless they get on better frequencies, then they're only going to perform worse over time. I mean, it's not like as if anything's ever going to go their way when they refuse to render things with any logical algorithms and instead just say whatever algorithm fills in the gaps in the geometry here as it changes when you turn a corner in a game. That's a random algorithm with another random algorithm connected to it. No, there's no conversion is what I'm saying. And you have to have a conversion when you're rendering games out of energy.
Well, everybody ate nonstop drugs, so their nerves don't run around along cores in their body, as their body also simultaneously becomes too weak to even have nerves, as everything becomes a general, nebulous cloud of weakened sensation in all their flesh, as then their muscles puff up and are all their nerves. Then they're incredibly weak, and a sparrow could kill them,
Basically, yeah. And then they they're basically jellyfish. Jellyfish are torn apart by anything. Yeah, that's what you're turning yourselves into. You're weak. And lots of people can resist your weak electrical frequencies and rip you to pieces. I guess that is enough of that. Now we're going to move on to Animal Crossing Sweet Days, or Day. There's several levels here, but this one's the most egregious. It's pretty simple, the problems with it. If it was going to receive an update, because I don't really give a shit, or whatever, a re-release with it being more finished or something, what you would do is, this is a Wii U game on the NintendoLand collection. I know how they made the mistake, that's why playtesting is required, and we did plenty of it. If you have a competent catcher and you like playing this game competitively, and there's no reason why you shouldn't even children can get smart enough, played enough to understand certain strategies, and then the game's effectively over, and I want replayability. So, Eamon talked about lots of randomizer stuff, but we'll get to that in a second. Right now what I want to talk about is, you see there's 1, 2, 3 bridges here, but what happens is, even if the person can use both of the hemispheres of their brain with each thumb perfectly, they can't close in on any one of these bridges when you're playing with 4 players. I mean, it's even harder, it's just not good. These bridges don't have crossways connections. Putting in more bridges would be helpful, maybe.
How about a spoke hub bridge area?
Yeah, with more side angle bridges would even just fix that issue. Or maybe removing a bridge or something, because what will happen is, if you've ever played this game, you'll collect candy from standing at the bases of trees on these little buttons that I have my mouse over here or over here, and candy will fall off of them, or it's already sitting in places on the ground, on the path in the map, and so you'll throw it into your hat and run around and try to drop it into these flag points. But there's this strategy where you leave your candy greatly helps you or hinders you. So if you go out to these islands here, then it's close to this flag and this flag. See, the positioning of the flags are also important about this. And because this flag is over here and this one's over here, you see, then people are free to just leave their candy in this area and have enough bridges once they speed up, because once they drop candy they don't weigh as much, and get away from these two dog guards hat people with the fork and knife.
Well, one's a cat, I think. I don't know.
Whatever. The point is, and then they can just speed off because they're fast enough, because they slow down, so that there's this strategy of how you're going to get it there without getting destroyed. And there's no strategy to just leaving them all in this lower island area and then constantly running around waiting for the people to stop being protecting them because you have a pile like up here too or over here. It's just too easy to bring them right here, and then if they're over here, then you can bring them up here or right over to this flag over here with no separation or impedance. Like, these trees aren't in the way. You don't have to like run up and around them. You see the square trees, whatever, triangle.
Well, the whole point of the game is about, half of it is strategy and the other half is maneuvering. If you aren't equally good at both, then you're gonna suck. So, why is the map here, for example, have the pine trees with guardrails around them all over, instead of being able to cut between them just enough so then you could, say those center 4 pines, they need to be separated just enough so then you can, go in there and when somebody's chasing you and, dodge any 3 ways. Yeah. And you know how it all feels where you, have a slight advantage if you don't have much candy in you as one of the wild animals. So you gotta, release enough candy so then you become more maneuverable than the guards, and that's the fun aspect of the game.
Yeah, we need to cut off the obvious avenues of what I basically like to call griefing, and open up, like you're saying, in different spots while blocking the easy paths. More ability to be tricky so that way it's more fun instead of less.
But you have to understand the reason they did this, and they originally probably had a concept of bigger maps with what we're saying, but then they said, oh man, we need it easily visible on, the Wii U gamepad screen for people looking at that, playing as the candy guards, and we need to keep it simple because at that point you have to remember that there was all of these weird fucking strictures on world economy. There was a impossible councils of people that rule existence who would say things like, yeah, multiplayer games, that has to be a segment that's accepted for this style of game, and you can't do things say that local multiplayer on your couch can have more than say 4 players. There was a cap, so there's all these caps on everything for no reason.
I really hate that.
So for this, supposedly it's one player who's supposed to play as both candy guards. But most people, in order to get any fun out of it, they're both going to sit, and it's going to be 2 people playing with the one screen controller, each grabbing a separate thumbstick and looking down at the screen with their heads close together while they maneuver each candy guard and talk to each other about how they're going to fucking rape everybody's, whats. That's also fun because, then if it's 2 different people playing as the candy guards and everybody's that's a given fact, you're supposed to do that, which isn't told to you.
Yeah.
Then nobody's ambidextrous minded like me. They're gonna feel stupid as playing as 2 guards with 2 thumbsticks.
Precisely.
And so if you open up the game to either be online and or local players up to 8, 12, whatever, then you can have a slightly bigger map. Exactly. And you can kind of actually pull from a closer perspective when you're zoomed in as a candy guard. If you wanted to keep it all on one screen for the controller, you kind of pull back into a overhead League of Legends, more chibi, different graphic styles you pull up.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can kind of see everything as an example map. It turns into the map slowly as you increase distance from the ground. Yeah, like, you know, I have to explain this or nobody knows what the hell they're doing.
It's almost like we really do think deeply about this type of shit.
Yeah, the whole time I was saying League of Legends was a design the whole time so that you could play all the way down, like, first-person perspective or third-person or whatever, and then pull up all the way to, like, RTS style for, like, and, like, back and forth at hyper speed for strategy and fun, you know? And so the new League of Legends game, League of Legends 2 or whatever when it comes out, it'll probably just be called League of Legends again and just be a sequel, though. I don't know why they do that. So, yeah, then you can, like, have the concept that you can have little woods areas where people are, like, hiding from the larger overhead view of the candy guards.
Yeah.
And, like, it's about, like, strategy of, like, not the candy guards ever even knowing where you are. You could have, like, bigger maps. With, like,
bigger maps. There'd be big map play than small map play. And you still, with the small map play, I described several methods of making it slightly better so that it doesn't play like it does when I play.
Yeah, like, imagine a League of Legends, you know, 5v5 map or something, or whatever size like that, for this game. How fun it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So over here we have a different level. Some of these levels are better or worse balanced. This one actually is pretty well balanced, as I recall.
Yeah, this was the most balanced, so that, like, you never knew, like, the guards would, you know, try to get you just as you're getting just enough candy. It'd be real close.
Yeah, so this map here is a different one. The problem is that that's just the same one as before. Never mind. There's several different maps, but I have a hard time looking up, like on the website here, the various levels.
Yeah.
They don't seem to mention it very much.
Maybe there's just 2.
Yeah. Maybe there's just 2. The point is, one's balanced, the other one needs a little bit of fixing, and there should be bigger maps and
the other
consolidated re-release.
The other one has this, like, island area with, like, 3 bridges with, like, candy laying on the sand.
Oh, yeah, that's sand spot.
That sand spot is... It causes such panic in people, like, hiding candy there or, like, picking it up to move it when guards come in at you. Yeah. It's, like, the most horrific sensation, and I don't know if that's good or bad, so I assume that's the point. Like, you want to suffer.
People are addicted to adrenaline. They consider all positivity with it instead of even the emotions generated from it, like as if it's just golden sunlight or something.
Yeah, I probably got more adrenaline from this game than about any other that I can think of.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think there's just 2 levels. It seems kind of like a prototype demo, so...
Yeah.
For now, that's all I really had to say. That was all that was on my list.
Yeah, let's see here. Just some ideas. People could be different types. Like, if you pick up different candy colors, then maybe you'd have different abilities. I don't know, just an idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you know, glow, your head glows with the color of candy if you pick up certain color enough of, you know, to do a certain thing.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, like,
you also
for example,
mentioned some randomized bigger levels that make it more chaotic so they can't get
randomized, yeah.
What I was saying was you were saying a volcano randomly explodes.
Yeah.
You said that before and some other things.
Also a tail game. You know that tail game in
Fall Guys, where you have a golden tail and try to grab it off other people, and there's only some
well, that level, how there's multiple levels to it, you could do some of that in this game a little bit, you know. So you can, like, be up higher and jump off, or, like, you know, have, like, things actively swinging back and forth, platforms you to get on at the right time, or things coming around to whack you, you know, different level ideas. Also, like, candy power-up ideas, I thought of one, like, you get enough of, like, red candy, for example,
Yeah.
then you can, like, temporarily, like, hit the guards, like, for a few seconds and, like, stun them.
Well, that would
knock
be
them over.
that'd be like part of a strategy where, like, to make that worth it for, you know, like the guards, for that to happen, you'd have to have this balancing agent where, like, it burns through that red candy over, you know, time. So you don't want to do that, or else you'll lose your candy anyway.
But the point is, like, you have different people who are like decoys, and they're like powered up, and they're distracting the guards, and then but like if they actually power up because the guards call their bluff, then they burn that candy, then they can't deposit it to win the game.
And that would be that's another dynamic randomizing agent that allows for more creativity in levels. And that'd be a part of a bigger sized level where there's more candy, but the aggression of the game is even faster. Everything's like more, you know, just more.
Yeah, for example, you get enough of other candy,
etc.
color, and you become invisible to the guards for a little while.
Yeah.
That's a good one, you know. Or, you know, the ground gets icy around you if you get enough candy of a certain color.
Yeah.
So the guards slip all over, and you can, like, accelerate and go on it faster.
And if you needed, you know, depending upon the level, that's why I say there'd be different requirements. Like certain levels that, you know, when you work out the balance, you determine that it's not possible without more guards because of the advantages the other people have, then you can have a second controller implemented. Pro tip, a Switch controller or a 3DS, you know, like it's an actual controller through like Wi-Fi, you know? And then you have like more guards.
More
that
guards.
Can play.
Like it could be like League of Legends style gameplay size feel, you know.
Yeah.
Like another one, you get enough of certain color candy, and you become gassy, weightless, like a blimp sort of. Your head's all huge, and then you float, and then the guards, like, you know, you can kind of maneuver around, and like the guards can, like, you know, poke at you with their, you know, sticks.
Yeah.
As you fly around past them, but, you know, you're kind of maneuverable, good, you know. Like, you don't have much speed, but you have great maneuverability.
I agree.
So you can, like, pester the guards as you fly around, you know. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, another one would be candy bombs. You get enough of a color, then you can, like, blow open a big area of, like, trees or fence or something, so then the guards don't expect it because they're used to the map shape, but then it's changed, and, like, the trees eventually grow back, but it lets you, like, you know, sneak through and, like, hide candy or move it through an area to deposit it, stuff like that, you know.
Fascinating, yeah.
Yes, I know.
Could have electricity ability that makes you skip small canals in a level where there's a decent number of them, so you can sometimes, like, you know, skeet across an area that you couldn't ordinarily and get to the other side.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can go nuts, like, drill a passage and have it pop up somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah, so you can go under however many tiles it is.
Yeah. And, like, you know, then, like, you have to, like...
But then the guards can jump through the hole and follow you.
Yeah, that would make it more dynamic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds pretty cool.
I guess that's it.
Yeah, I think I came up with all the different types of candy things. I mean, yeah, it's about